and welcome to EBAday 2022 in Vienna. I'm Hannah Wallace, and joining me now in the studio to discuss the banking and payments landscape is Dean Wallace from ACI Worldwide. Dean, lovely to have you on. Thank you.
It's lovely to be here. Thanks, Hannah.
Great event so far, so thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak with us. We're going to be talking about banking and the payments landscape, and I want you to first set the scene for us. What is the payments architecture, specifically in the UK at the moment, and where are we up to?
Okay. So I think for quite a long time now, plus 10 years, UK has been seen on the global banking scene as the leader in real-time payments or faster payments. I think where we are now in 2022, that's no longer the case. We're seeing other markets like Brazil and India getting much more benefit from it. And certainly at ACI, we've recently released a report known as Prime Time for Real Time, where we are the first organisation to actually dig into the economic impact and draw a direct correlation between real-time adoption and improvements in GDP and economic benefit. And India, we've seen by 2026, it's around about 45 billion of increased economic benefit because of the adoption of real time. Brazil's about 37, and if you look at the UK, it's only between 3 and 4. Now, the UK is not the only market there. There are other markets like US and a couple of European markets who could also do some of these improvements. But at the same time, there's definitely a need for the UK to get back ahead again.
Sure.
And so there's some work needed to be done. Now, the PSR, the Payment Services Regulator, a number of years ago, they already made these strategic decisions to do this into the market. And so they didn't even have the benefit of this data, but they did have the foresight to see it was needed. And so they very much launched this capability, and they've looked at it, and it's moving forward now, and the banks are looking to how to adopt. And I think really encourage what's going on in the UK right now. The PSR absolutely doing the right thing. The banks, Pay.UK, this is the right thing for the market. The UK does need to catch up. It does need to take benefit of what's going on there and really drive forward on this programme.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for bringing us up to date there. And you've highlighted those changes, and with those come some challenges, don't they? So what are those challenges?
Well, I think probably the top challenge for moving to a new payments architecture, that move to ISO 20022 and new payment capabilities, it's one of talent. And how do you get the right people who understand, kind of two things really. One thing would be understanding that migration. You're moving from one payment system to another. This is open heart surgery. You need people who know what they're doing, because the banks can't fail. The reputational damage would be enormous. We've seen some of this in the past. So having the right people understand how to migrate, I think is useful, phasing and things like that. But also, as we're seeing these new data sets, the ISO 20022 data standard is a richer data set. And so that is really requiring that move to how do you leverage those capabilities, and how do you actually have an enhanced service? So people who've done that before or had some similar experience, so very much a talent kind of challenge. I think second challenge, and there's three I'm going to mention, but the second challenge will be one of sort of functional capabilities. So just building on that data set, that movement to how do you actually leverage that data for things like value-added services? Because ultimately there's an opportunity here for the consumers and the businesses who are served by their banks to have new services, new capabilities. Now, for a bank, it's an opportunity to compete and actually retain their customers and attract new customers. So how do you actually grow that out with new additional services? A bit of creativity required there. So those are kind of the two key things that I would mention.
Sure. Well, you've highlighted the challenges there, and weaved in, touched on how the banks should be responding. But what's your final message then? What's the advice you'd leave those banks watching today?
I think the first thing, Hannah, is really, we've seen a tendency in the banking space, certainly over the last 10, 15 years, heavy focus on compliance. I would say don't see this as a compliance initiative. It's very tempting to just see it as we need a new system. But I think against a backdrop of the modernisation that we're seeing a lot of the banks doing, multi-billion-dollar enhancements, it's knowing about how to actually leverage the capabilities, include it as a strategic direction moving forward to things like payment hubs or the digitisation or moving it to a cloud environment or a managed service. Think about this strategically, because what it's going to do is give you the chance to be more nimble. It's going to give you the chance to compete against some of those smaller players who may have been outpacing you before. So those who take take the attack to trying to make this something that can really benefit from the business will, as we've seen in other markets from ACI, they'll really do well out of that. I think the other thing then, a key one then would be making sure that they're leveraging the data. They can do some, as well as going out to market with new service, new capabilities, they're also going to be able to actually improve their operating profits by reducing risk, richer data sets, better actionable data. And I think the last one, and obviously this is where ACI plays a big role, is choose the right partner. You're going to have to, and I would say partners, plural. You need organisations and partners who've done this before, who've cut their teeth in other markets and got the battle scars to prove it, can bring experience from around the world on how you can launch new payment services, migrate from old payment services and augment and enrich services that actually helps the banks improve their go-to-market. And I think those would be the key things I would say, Hannah.
Sure. And as you say, that's where ACI Worldwide comes in.
Absolutely.
Some very good advice there, and safe to say, watch this space.
Absolutely.
Now, Dean, I'll let you get back to the event
Thanks.
so you can share your insights with the rest of the delegates, but thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.